like, I have no clue what I'm doing here. And everything feels overwhelming. And I feel like I'm at sea. Let me show you the path. Let me help you avoid just getting totally beat up over the next 6 months on this thing. And let me kind of like help you through this. They realize it's not that hard, right? It's, you got to be decisive and you got to do some tough work. At the end of the day, like, it's very doable. Like, when it goes from seeing impossible to doable, that's cool.
Welcome to Unlock My Coach, a podcast for seasoned, soulful, and successful coaches. In every episode, you'll hear incredible stories from coaches who are building their brands and making their mark in the booming $20 billion coaching industry. Who am I? Stacey Gonzalez, your host and founder of Unlock, a digital marketing and personal branding agency that helps coaches launch, market, and grow their businesses. Ready to unlock your coach? I know I've got your key in here somewhere. Welcome to today's podcast, where we're thrilled to have Bruce Eckfeldt, a strategic business coach with a deep understanding of leadership, growth, and organizational excellence. Bruce specializes in helping entrepreneurs and business leaders scale their companies with clarity and purpose. His expertise spans from team alignment and leadership development to growth strategy and exit planning. You're doing all of it, making him a sought-after coach for high-performing executives. Get ready to unlock fresh insights on business growth and leadership development. Bruce, we're so excited to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Stacey, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
So excited. So let's kick this off. Talk to us a little bit about how you define success for yourself as a leadership and development coach.
Yeah, so as you mentioned in the intro, I'm primarily focused on business growth, business strategy, and then helping founders, entrepreneurs exit. And so, I mean, ultimately, I want entrepreneurs to have just success, both financially and personally, all right? And that can be somewhat defined by the nature of what they do and the impact that they want to have on the world. But a lot of what I'm trying to do is look beyond just the money side of it and figuring out, okay, well, how do you take either this money or the influence or the success you've had, the network, the knowledge, the experience that you've gained, and turn it into something more personal and more driven. I use this model of, you have influencing yourself, influencing your family, your friends, your company, your industry, your community, the world, right? So we kind of looking at what's the next layer that we can operate in. And, I've been fortunate in working with some entrepreneurs that have had great success and really do have the opportunity to have significant impacts in industries and communities. But so it's kind of a combination. It's financial, it's personal, it's impact in the world.
So this influence ourselves, let's start there. What are the attributes or the ways in which, when you work with probably very high performing individuals, where does that start with that, like influencing yourself? What does that look like?
Well, so a lot of it, I'll have these conversations with companies, with founders, CEOs that are doing quite well. And, I'm like, well, what do you want to achieve with the business? And they're like, oh, well, like, I want more happiness and I want more, connection, and I want to have, these things. And they're thinking about this stuff as being like 5 years away or 10 years away. And a lot of times I'm just like, well, we could do that right now, right? Like, we can just figure out how to have more happiness now and more connection now. So sometimes it really is just sort of helping them see, and it's not even that they need to kind of live a more balanced life, right? Like, okay, like, how do we start integrating stuff? But actually, that if they start doing this stuff now, they'll be a better leader and they'll actually build a better business and they'll get to the financial outcomes they want faster and better. So a lot of this kind of leading yourself is, figuring out what it is you really want and what your values are and what is important to you. And sometimes, I'll deal with these founders where they're like, oh, I want to get home to, put my kids to bed or something like that. I'm like, okay, why? Like, what is it about that? And we'll get down to it. And they're like, actually, no, I want to work. I'm like, okay, well, find something else. Like, maybe it's, you just take amazing vacations with your kids, right? Every month, right? But it means you're not going to be there every night to put them to bed, right? Because you want to work. And so sometimes it's just getting real with themselves and just having them just honestly accept, like, these are my priorities and this is how I want to run it, and not getting caught up or tied up in what other people think about these things. So this kind of self-integrity and self-honesty is a lot of what I end up dealing with these founders.
And do you have certain go-to moves or tools in your toolkit? Because once you kind of know what you know, you can like, oh, here's the thing, and here's where we're going to take this. Do you have certain things that you rely on quite a bit? When people come to you with these, like, I'll be happy when, What does that kind of look like from a coaching practice that you've created for yourself and your
Yeah,
clients?
I kind of joke like half my job is business model, half my job is therapy.
Yeah.
Where on the business model side, yes, I have a whole series of tools that we look at in terms of the business and leadership and alignment and strategy and operational excellence and even kind of management processes and management skills. Um, but then we're then applying a lot of this kind of mindset and approach and philosophy of leadership as it gets applied to those situations. And the business model side, yes, there are things we can do to focus strategy and figure out positioning and kind of drive exceptional value and how do we drive pricing, right? And growth strategy and stuff. And then there's a lot of things we do on the leadership side. I will say probably a couple of things that come up for me pretty repeatedly. One is oftentimes it's how to help a leader unlearn things more than learn things. And just in this growth phase that I tend to work in, this kind of 5 to 50, $5 to $100 million growth areas, there are several stages to it. And each stage requires unlearning the things that you had to learn to get there because they're now going to work against you. And that is big psychological shift for a lot of entrepreneurs because they get so like, this thing works so well for me up until this point, and they just want to keep using it. I'm like, yeah, but we don't have any nails anymore, right? The goal here is not nails. Like we don't need hammers. Like we're now into nuts and bolts and wrenches. So we've got to, if you keep hammering things, it's just not going to work. So that kind of unlearning things is a big kind of strategy or a thing that I'm always looking for and helping these leaders identify so we can be intentional about it.
I love that. I think about my own journey, the journey of other entrepreneurs I know, and it is such a lesson in get to the level, to your point, throw it all away because you're going to a next level you've never been.
Yeah.
And the faster you can let go of the stuff that, to your exact point, let go of the things that got you there.
Yeah.
And then reinvent and recreate a new vision of what it'll look like for you at the next level is so vital and so important. The other thing that you kind of tying it back to where you started was I told somebody today, I'm not $100 million company, but I want to be.
Uh-huh.
And I said to somebody today, the call before this, I said, I don't have anything fundamentally different that I would be or do in my life at that level, except for maybe a little more exotic vacation, right? But like I'm still going to get up and read with my husband in the morning and drink my coffee and have some of those things in place.
Yeah.
And I think when you get to a certain age, right? Because probably a lot of the people that you're working with, I make no assumptions about age, might be a little bit younger. And so there's some of those lessons that, maybe they haven't learned yet in age. And as the money's coming in and things are getting more complex, it gets a little more challenging and you can start hustling harder. And that's actually going to potentially burn you out and take you the way you don't want to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of the research is reasonably conclusive at this point where, money doesn't motivate people, beyond, it depends on where you live these days, but, $100,000, $120,000, $150,000 a year, like additional money is very incremental in terms of improvement of quality of life. So I really try to steer leaders away, entrepreneurs away, founders away from of really kind of focusing on the personal financial gain and more about like what is the impact and kind of influence they're going to have on others and the world and their communities as being kind of the motivator. Because, talking to an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, right now we could sell this thing for $3 million. You can pocket $1.5 million versus we could sell it for 10 and you could pocket 5. Right. It's like, okay, that's a lot of money. Like it's going to give you some freedom. Right. You can not work for it, but most of the people I work with are going to work.
They want to work.
They're dead
right?
anyway.
They want
right?
to work.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they're huskies. They just need to pull.
Yeah.
So, it really becomes like, okay, then, but what do you do with that? Like, what is the impact? How do you create a company that's going to have value? How do you create a team that's going to have impact? Like taking a team of 10 people to a team of 500 people. That's impressive, right? Like that's a real impact you can have on the world. So I tend to focus, help them refocus some of these goals and ambitions and kind of measures of success on that stuff, less on just how much money am I going to have in my pocket at the end of this.
Love that. So when you think back Bruce, on your career and you think about, man, I really missed it with that one. Never going to do that again. And things that can help other coaches, others that are kind of working in, like you said, this space. You're doing a lot of strategy, but you're really doing a lot of coaching, consulting, one-on-one, helping
Yeah.
people. Where'd you blow it?
I'd say every not so successful coaching engagement that I've had typically goes back to choosing the wrong people to work with. And I can think of two cases. One where I had an entrepreneur at like amazing business, it looked perfect, and then they brought me in. We started doing some work, and they just weren't like, it wasn't happening. Like, they weren't executing on the process. And it was in this, I'll try to keep it anonymous so to protect the guilty, but it was a husband and wife team. And I realized like 3 months into this thing that the husband hired me to try to convince the wife to do all this stuff. And the wife was just digging in her heels. And finally, after about 6 months, I was kind of like, I feel bad taking your money at this point, because it's really, this is becoming just, couples counseling, and it's not working. This is not what I do. And so I think just that kind of taught me, is like, as wonderful as a potential prospect looks, get really understanding, what do they want to do? Why do they want to do it? What's their motivation? Is this really a good fit for you? And I can think of another one, like amazing company, an entrepreneur, but it was the private equity company brought me in to work with them because the leadership team was struggling. And I had all this great insight. I was like, look, these are the challenges you're having. Here's some areas that would really kind of move the needle in terms of your ability to lead and this alignment of leadership team. And every single time I brought something up, it was like, well, that's the team's issue. Right. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, the team should just figure out how to do this. And I'm like, all right. Like, it's just, like, this person was not, they didn't want to be coached. So just realizing that it doesn't matter how great it looks. Like, if they're not really open and ready and willing to go through the process, and you don't have the right kind of buy-in, like, you can make a little money, right? Like, you can cash a few checks, but it's not going to be a great account.
I appreciate you saying that. My first K a month client, when I became an entrepreneur, I was like, I have made it. It's husband and wife team, to your point. And when I looked back at why it was such a cluster, I recognized all the red flags I ignored, right? And so that allows you, it really is. There's a lot of trial and error, especially for new coaches. If you're moving into a space, or you're trying a new type of coaching or type of business or industry or a different market, you're going to move into a different market, being really aware. And I've learned to be really, like, on any sort of discovery, just be very open and trust my intuition and what is going to kind of come through for me to ask those questions. Because it's not like you can have a script of questions like, oh, I'm going to ask these 5 questions and I'm going to know all the answers. Talk a little bit about what compels you. What's your purpose and vision? What's your hope in this work that you're doing, and what really drives you?
Yeah. So for me, I love that whole kind of transformation of helping earlier stage founder kind of go from, I don't know how to do this, like, I feel very insecure, I don't have a plan, everything feels overwhelming, but they have a dream, right? They want to take this somewhere, is like getting to them to the point where, like, oh my gosh, I can do this, I understand this now. And partly because it was my own experience. I mean, I was a founder, and I ended up in this kind of business where, like, I have no clue what I'm doing here, and everything feels overwhelming, and I feel like I'm at sea. And it took me a while to kind of find the strategic frameworks, learn the strategic principles, understand how to manage people, put together a leadership team. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so, like, it was school of hard knocks, right? It's like I had to make the mistake 5 times before I figured out the solution. And when I can come into an engagement and be like, yeah, I was there. let me show you the path. Let me help you avoid just getting totally beat up over the next 6 months on this thing. And let me kind of, like, help you through this. And helping them kind of get to that point of feeling confident and feeling actually more ambitious. Like, a lot of the clients I work with were like, all right, we're a $15 million company. We want to be 30. And then within a year, they're like, screw it, we want to be 100. And, like, that's fun. It's fun to see their ambition start to increase when their confidence starts to increase, and they actually understand, like, how to do this. And then they realize it's not that hard, right? It's you got to be decisive, and you got to do some tough work. But at the end of the day, like, it's very doable. Like, when it goes from seeing impossible to doable, that's cool. I like that.
So it sounds like your dream is to help other people make their dreams a reality.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. How do you get your message into the world? So you're a thought leader, you've got great credibility, you've done some really good work. How do you think about yourself, your thought leadership, especially as you probably can't engage in as many things with as many clients as you
Yeah.
continue to grow, right? What does that look like for you?
Well,
How do you brand yourself?
from a thought leadership point of view, I mean, I think I had a coach. I'm always using coaches, but I had a coach at one point that was kind of doing marketing and content coach, and she ran me through this kind of assessment of, well, what's your natural kind of content style? And it was like, do you like to write? Do you like to speak? Do you like to, present? Right? And we went through this thing, and it was interesting to kind of realize that, oh yeah, there's some things that I can do that I'm it's sort of natural, it's easy, and flow. Whereas other things, it's like, yeah, I know, that would be valuable for a lot of coaches, but I hate doing this, and so I shouldn't do that. And so learning that which content models or modes were kind of naturally a fit for me was really helpful, because then I could just find ways of getting that stuff out there, even if like other coaches are crushing it on courses or something. I'm like, I don't like doing courses, so don't do courses, right? Like, it was like understanding what's a fit. The other one I figured out was, as I was working with the leaders I was coaching, as they kind of came up with these interesting questions or issues or challenges, I would keep a little notebook. I would kind of write this stuff down, and then I would write content on that. And I was fortunate enough to be picked up by Inc. early in my career. And so I was writing articles for Inc. And all of my articles for Inc. come from conversations I've had with clients. It's sometimes prospects, but usually clients. And what happens is that, because if it's on their mind, it's probably on at least 10 other CEOs' minds, is that it became a really great way. Like, I had CEOs that were random CEOs that would email me an article and say, get out of my head, because I was tapping into the things that they were struggling with. So a lot of my thought leadership is finding what are the things that my current clients are struggling with. Chances are prospects are struggling with. If I can create good, insightful content around that, that will attract those right people. And the other one is repel the wrong people.
Yes.
Right. So I don't write a lot about, like, I don't do a lot of things around finance. I don't do a lot of things around like restaurants and stuff like that. That's not the space I work in. So I choose things that are going to be focused on the prospects that I want to be working with, knowing that it's going to turn other people off, but that's good. Right. Like, I want to have that repulsion as well as attraction.
So it's February 2025 right now.
Mm-hmm.
What are kind of the topics or the things that are top of mind for your thought leadership right now in the marketplace of ideas?
So a lot of what I've been doing the last couple of years is not only figuring out kind of this growth strategy, but how do companies exit? And it's coming up more and more, in part because we call it the silver wave, right? Like, this generation of business owners are kind of moving into an end of professional career kind of mode. And they're thinking, like, what do I do at this point? Like, I've been running this company for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I don't have I don't have a second generation that's going to take it over. Like, what do I do with this thing? And really kind of helping figure out what are these sort of exit strategies. How do we kind of tune the company to be ready for those things? Really kind of thinking through some of those strategies, because there's a couple different options, and the different options would be quite different. And I've had a lot of fun kind of digging into some of these companies and figuring out underlying assets and capabilities, and seeing, all right, based on what you do and how you do it and what you have right now, here are probably the most lucrative or the most interesting exit options. And then helping them figure out, like, well, what do you want to do after that? And for some people, it's, I want to retire. I want to do volunteer, or get some people. It's like, I want to do another company, or, I have another interest. I want to open a family office. And if we can figure those things out, it will help. I call it, I want it to be a springboard. I want to take whatever we're doing now, or whatever this exit is going to be, to the springboard to the next thing. That's been interesting, because it's both the company side, but it's also working with the founder on their personal goals and ambitions and impact.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're to the point where we're going to put you on the hot seat.
Okay.
And so these are just intuitive, one word, little explanation answers. All right. Are you
42.
ready?
The answer is always 42.
All right, here we go. The value of working with a coach is
Avoiding potholes.
the book I always recommend.
The Goal.
By
Eli Goldratt.
the superpower I bring to my clients.
Difficult questions.
My first client taught me
To charge more money.
one non-negotiable value.
Vulnerability.
The wildest dream I'm chasing right now.
I want to get back to Nepal and climb.
Love that.
Mountain climb, yeah.
I recharge and refocus by
nature.
If my coaching business was a song, it would be
Welcome to the jungle.
the biggest key I've learned being a coach.
Don't do the work for them.
Who is the coach you most admire?
I had a biathlon coach when I was young. It was Steve Johnson was his name. He taught me mindset though. He was the first one that taught me understanding mindset, which has stuck with me.
In 5 years, I hope people understand the coaching industry is
complicated.
Bruce Eckfeldt, a strategic business coach. We really appreciate having you. If people want to connect with you or learn more, where can they find you?
Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, easiest way is just bruce@eckfeldt.com is my email address. Eckfeldt.com is my website. At LinkedIn, I'm big on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn and you'll see all sorts of stuff there.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Stacey.